Hey everyone, this is Robert Kemmer with Milton Union Schools, and I'm here today with Dr. Jimmy Onate from The Ohio State University. Today we're going to go over injury prevention, and I'll let Dr. Onate introduce himself. He's a man of many trades, so Dr. Onate, I'll hand it over to you.
Thanks, Robert. So I'm an associate professor at Ohio State University in the College of Medicine, the School of Health and Rehabilitation Sciences, and I'm in the athletic training division. Um, I wear a couple of different hats from a research side, where I'm a research member in the Jamison Crane Sports Medicine Institute, and also a research member of the Human Performance Collaborative at Ohio State. I'm also a high school baseball coach. I'm an assistant baseball coach at Olentangy Liberty High School, and I helped to create their strength and conditioning program for that baseball team. And I'm also a travel baseball coach in the Bo Jackson Elite Sports system.
Perfect. So, what type of advice do you have for our athletes as far as injury prevention? What do they need to do to stay healthy and spend more time on the playing field?
That's a tough one. There's a lot of these companies that are out there right now that talk about how if you do this or follow their product or follow their thing, that they're going to keep you injury free and so on and so forth. I think one of the things that people have to understand is that if you play a sport, you have an inherent chance of getting injured. And so just having that awareness is first. Second thing is I constantly state that you have to increase athleticism. We have to help create athletes, not just specific sport or specific position individuals. We have to create if you want to think about it, the animal that can do a lot of different things. And they have a lot of choices, movement choices, to be able to handle any type of quote unquote challenge that may be ahead of them. So I would say the biggest thing is understand the awareness that just playing a sport or just doing anything right now in our current times, just living and breathing is an inherent risk. And that's so don't think that you can buy this magic bullet and or this magic vitamin or this program that's going to keep you from ever getting injured. And then the second part is, how can you increase your athleticism?
So, what you're saying is really the only foolproof way is just to stop playing sports.
Yeah, I was with an orthopedic surgeon at North Carolina. His name, Dr. Bill Garrett. He's a legend in orthopedics, and that's exactly what he said. He goes, look, if you want to prevent all these injuries, then they shouldn't play. But if you want to reduce the risk, then there's things that we can do. So we actually talk about risk reduction or injury risk potential reduction as opposed to injury prevention, because it's a really hard thing to prevent injuries and also playing and also trying to play really well. It's a hard part.
Now, you said being an overall just a better athlete helps with reducing injury. So, how might an athlete does that consider, making sure you play more than one sport or making sure you're just varying your training and not doing the same thing over and over?
Yeah, I think it's a combination. I think you can play multiple sports. That helps with it. I think you can do it through training. We like to pigeonhole kids at an early age and try to encourage them to become really good at a sport. But I also think, just because they're not on a organized travel team or an organized high school team doesn't mean that they're not playing. So, if you're playing pickup basketball in the playground or in your yard, that's playing basketball. Just because there's no referees and no coach running it doesn't mean that you're not getting that athleticism. If you're a football player or a volleyball player or a baseball player, go play these other games. Go out and play some of the games that when kids were little, playing tag and chasing the dog. Those are all athleticism pieces. So I'm not as big on the have to play multiple sports. I am big on the promoting athleticism through any way possible. So.
And then how important is the strength and conditioning program? Should athletes be in the weight room getting stronger? Is that going to help them prevent injuries?
Yeah, I think it's just like anything else. Strength and conditioning is a profession. You have knowledgeable people. Robert and I got to spend some time together, and I think it's just like anything else. Just because I eat food, and everybody eats food, doesn't make them a nutritionist. Just because we brush our teeth doesn't make them a dentist. Just because I comb my hair doesn't mean I'm going to style somebody's hair. So I think just because people work out doesn't mean that they're an expert in the weight room. And so I think being around knowledgeable strength and conditioning individuals, people who understand progressions and loads, people who understand when things should happen, people who understand technique, that's very important. I can't think of anything more important than knowing what to do, when to do it, and how to do it, especially for our physical activity pieces.
Perfect. Yeah, so when I first started with Milton Union at the beginning of the school year, we started off with our main focus on the high school athletes, getting them in there and, just building their overall strength, and then now we're starting to venture into the junior high athletes, and try to start them as early as we can. That way, by the time they do get to high school, they know how to properly do all the mechanics and, they're more advanced than if we were just to start them as soon as they come into high school.
Yeah, I think that's a great plan. I think you got to treat them differently. Their maturity levels are different. Their attention span's different. Their needs are different. There's where in the middle school, especially, you could have a very mature eighth grader or seventh grader and a very immature eighth grader, seventh grader. So if you're having the same expectations, it's really tough. So I think it's a great plan. I think more and more people need to buy in. Um, I'm a parent of a high school freshman and a high school senior. Um, they train, differently, and they're different athletes. But you know, I think the importance of having knowledgeable people around is should never be taken for granted on these things.
Now, moving to the parents, you said you were a parent of two high school athletes. What type of role do the parents have in injury prevention with their kids?
Well, I think they got a big role. Number one, I think a lot of the things, the habits that we're looking at, and you can follow any NBA, Major League Baseball, NFL, NHL, so on and so forth, Premier Soccer, whatever your sport is or your activity. There's a couple of things that are uh, common across all those things. Number one is sleep, is making sure that there's adequate sleep and good sleep. Number two is good nutrition. Um, and healthy nutrition on those pieces, stress, and those three are three things that parents can really, create a problem with. Letting kids or enforcing them to get up early, stay up late, um, letting them stay up late. I don't know of any teenager that goes to the grocery store and buys their own groceries. So I would say the parents are really dominant on what kids are being fed in the house, and stress. A lot of times, parents we're adding to the stress when we really should be a safe haven for our kids, as opposed to trying to get this scholarship or get on this team or break this record or any of those types of things. So I think parents are super important to the whole process of youth development.
And then, so one of my main goals for these podcasts is to really educate and inform not only the athletes, but also the parents and the coaches. So what are there any resources out there for the parents, that they can go to and help educate them on various topics?
Yeah, I mean, there's a slew of social media pieces out there on a variety of different topics. I think it depends on how to decipher and sift through who's good and who's not good. Um, I think it's all going to be relative to the questions. Like, I just got involved with a really interesting mental health group online for sport performance, but also for battling any other type of mental health pieces. And that's called Mindrance. Um, Dr. Grafe, who used to be a sports psychologist at OSU, is leading that charge. And, so I think it really depends on what their interest areas are. And they have to find people who they trust, who are also knowledgeable. And I think checking credentials, checking backgrounds, doing reference checks, not just going who's the strongest person they know or the fastest person they know or the happiest person they know. That's not always the best way. I mean, there's reasons that we have degrees and credentials and certifications in these things, and they need to go find those individuals. Again, I'll go back. We don't just let anybody randomly check on our teeth. We wouldn't let anybody randomly um, go out and do any type of surgery on us, right? We're going to check on credentials, and I don't think strength and conditioning and any of these other things are any different.
And then transferring over to the role of the coaches. A lot of our coaches, they're looking for any type of information they can to help, make them a better coach. So what would you say if you had advice to our coaches, that they can do?
So coaches, again, the same thing. I think they run sometimes a little bit too eager to help, and they go into the latest, greatest craze online. Um, I always say that one of the things, especially for a high school kid, is being consistent. So I'm not saying consistently wake up at the same time. I'm not saying consistently do the same exercises every day and those types of things. But I think having a consistent approach, everybody's going to mess up every once in a while. But I think coaches can help with the athlete's consistency. They can know what's going on, what's their workout, so on and so forth. But then I think the biggest thing for coaches is, is a really good network and community. We know as a coach and as a parent, we know that we can't do everything all ourselves. So we need to reach out to who are the best professionals, check their credentials, look at their backgrounds, establish a communication system. I always have the phrase that it takes a village to raise a ball player. A coach is a very important part of that village, and they got to have trust in other people. They can't do everything themselves. So I think for a coach, it's really, really important for them to network with their strength coach, with their athletic trainer, with their teachers, with their parents, and create a comprehensive game plan for these individuals. Now, it sometimes seems like it's overwhelming for a coach to do all those things. I'm not talking about creating an individual game plan for 100 kids on a football team, but I'm talking about creating some type of culture that allows individuals to have some different quote unquote needs met by other people.
Yep. And we have a great athletic trainer. Her name is Steph. And I mean, she's vital in our athletes' health. She's there to not only keep our athletes healthy, but, if they're getting hurt, getting them rehabbed and stronger than they were before and getting them back out to the field. So.
Yeah, again, it takes a team. I mean, if we go look at anything that is requires more than one individual, but everybody only looks at the one individual. So let's just take, I don't know, Indy racing car, right? Everything is built on the driver. No, it's not. You got the pit crew people, you got all the engineers in the background, all the different types of technology and information and management and all these things to allow that car to go fast as possible with the driver, right? That's what we're talking about with these high school kids. So your strength coach and your athletic trainer and your physicians and your teachers and your parents and your coaches and specific coaches and all those things all are trying to help that quote unquote individual achieve what optimal performance, and somebody's optimal performance might be barely making the freshman team, but that's as good as they can be. That's what they were given genetically, and that's okay. And somebody else's optimal performance may be Olympic caliber or professional caliber. That's different, but we should still have a similar game plan for each of those individuals from an approach standpoint, a process standpoint, not necessarily from the same exact workouts or the same exact exercises.
I think the biggest takeaway, for our athletes and our parents is, there's not a clear cut way to injury prevention, but you just have to be cautious of it. You know, you have to do your own homework, and if you're paying attention to it, that's going to be more than just not even paying attention to it at all.
Yeah, yeah. I think a lot of times people want more, 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 and sometimes we talk about a deload or a rest day. Some people really respond to that rest, where other people don't respond. That's it's not in their vocabulary. So then we have to give them term active rest, and some people still don't do that, and so we have to give them cross training, or we have to give them deload or something that works for them, but not always just go go go. We know that workload relative to injury prevention is very important. I'm not sure it's as high as everybody's making it out to be with a lot of these different scientific formulas that are able to predict injuries off of workload. But I do think it's a key component of that. And we're actually working on a special issue in the Journal of Athletic Training on workload for a variety of different things: firefighters, high school athletes, military, college athletes, so on and so forth. So look for that to come out in probably the end of this year. So all depending on how everything goes. But I think injury prevention isn't a one thing fits all. It's a variety of different things that go in there: awareness, understanding soreness, communication. I mean, we could go on and on about all these different things, and I'm wide open to do that. I can spend all day long talking about this.
Yep. Yeah, they got to know when to hit the gas and when to hit the brakes also. They know their body best. And sometimes you're going to get more out of hitting the brakes a little bit and getting that recovery in than if you just hit the gas and never stop.
Yeah, I mean that analogy, hitting the gas, hitting the brakes is very important. It's also the same analogy that we use on, everybody wants to work on acceleration, be faster, but nobody wants to work on how do they slow down when they sprint. So we can use those analogies to so many different areas. But I think we sometimes tend to want to try to do too much. And right now, during the virus piece that we have going on right now, I think a lot of people are like, well, how do I do more? How do I do more? When actually the best thing is to do less. Be in the moment. Understand that the best thing they can do for society is to stay home and work on other things. That's why this is a great opportunity to do this. I'm always excited to try to speak a little bit and try to give advice. So thanks for helping me through this time.
Absolutely. And thank you for dedicating your time. I appreciate it, and I'm sure the community and the athletes, they're going to appreciate it big time with all the information they're getting.
Yeah, let me know. I'm always interested to talk about a variety of different ways. Uh, my final piece on the injury prevention side, I've kind of moved away from using that term, and I really just I call everything I do right now optimal performance and sustainment. So, how do we optimize performance? And it doesn't matter what that is: playing baseball, football, office worker, strength coach, husband, father, whatever that is. Can we get to the highest level that we possibly can, and then can we sustain that for as long as we can? And so I've kind of moved away from that term of injury prevention, and I just kind of like, how do we perform at the optimal level, and how do we sustain that?
Perfect. And then real quick, one last closing piece. I did tweet out the picture you sent me the other day with the Navy SEALs with the teammates.
Oh yeah, yeah, the high performers, yeah, and low trust.
Yep. So if
Yeah.
you could just real quick touch on that, and give your kind of your mindset behind that whole thing.
Yeah, so that was, I had done some stuff within the special forces community for a little while and tested them and so on and so forth. And I knew that trust of their teammate is a big, big piece. So I was reading Simon Sinek's book called The Infinite Game, and he's just talking about trust and selecting individuals. But essentially, if you want to think about uh, uh, a quad or a 2x2 kind of chart where you have high performance, low performance, high trust and low trust in that individual. Ideally we have the really high performer who we highly trust, right? So this person is, the best whatever. that they do, and we have a relationship that we trust them in everything they do. That's easy, right? Then the other side of that is the low performer, low trust. They're not very good at whatever they do, and we don't trust them. Not because they're not very good performers, we just don't trust them. So those are easy, like, yes, we want this person on our team. No, we don't want this person on the team. Then the other side becomes really tough. The high performance person with low trust. And then the low performance person with high trust. Which way should we go? And in the book, it talks about how most within the SEAL community would be selecting the medium performer with low trust or high trust, or the low performer with high trust, as opposed to the person with high performance and low trust. So, that's a tough one, because can you get trust in your high performer? Yeah, so that's perfect. So can you create trust in your high performer? Or can you create increased performance in the person that you highly trust? And they were talking about that we'd rather go with the person that we trust highly, but who performs low, and make them a little bit better than trying to get that high performance person who we have low trust in, and pick them for our team. So I thought that was really interesting. And I think it goes back to a lot of different things out there that I've kind of learned over the years in my progression as being a person. Can you basically create an environment where people want to be doing things with you, as opposed to you just thinking about you checking boxes and trying to push yourself ahead? So I don't know, that's to me a very big thing on selection of individuals and what should you be trying to do. To me, it's really being a great teammate. And I think this is, with the current virus situation that we have right now, be a great teammate. Don't make it all about you. And this world will be a better place.
Yep, and I think that transfers over to athletics perfectly. It's not always about you. It's about the team. And if your goals are to win a conference championship and go on to the state level and win a state championship, you can't do that if you don't have trust within your teammates. So, what can you do for the team? It's not always what the team can do for you.
Yeah, and I think working out more, that makes you a better teammate, right? Because they're going to trust that you're going to be ready to do this, so you work out. Letting somebody, when you realize you're not at the top of your game, and you need to sit there going, okay, I need to do this not for myself, but to try to help this person next to me. We were just talking with my high school baseball coaches what made us. We won the state championship 2 years ago. What led that? Well, we had 2 seniors on that squad that pitched a lot during the regular season, and in the playoffs, they didn't pitch 1 inning. So in the state tournament, they didn't pitch 1 inning in the state tournament. So the last 2 games. Why? They trusted their teammates, but they could have really brought down the whole team by complaining that they're seniors and they should have been pitching and so on. They didn't do that once. And nobody knows about that except for us as coaches. Like that, I think that was a big key for us, was they trusted each other, that, they were going to perform. And maybe they could have performed better, but, who knows? But the biggest thing is that they trusted each other for those things. And I thought that was one of the best things that happened to those individuals. So.
Well, great. Well, we'll end on that. I know time's valuable, so I just wanted to say thank you again for meeting. I really appreciate you helping get information out to our athletes and our parents.
Sounds good. Yeah, I'd love to do it anytime. Give me a holler. We can talk about anything that you want to talk about.
All right. Perfect. Thank you very much.
All right, buddy boy. Talk to you soon.
All righty.
All right.